Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Milen and I'm a personal stylist, and today we're on episode or video number 3 on my essences series. Now this is all about the accessories for the essences. Today we're talking about hair and makeup, which is such a fun way to add in your essence. I mean, truly, I say that about every single accessory, but it's true. Every accessory is another opportunity for you to infuse your essence into your look. This is also such a great way if your physical facial features matches the essence. Again, you do not need to have your facial features match the essence to have the essence, but if it does, this is such a fun way to kind of amp it up or play it down, depending. I did mention a little bit about hair and makeup in each of the essence videos, so I've linked the playlist here for you to check out. Today we're gonna go a little bit deeper into each of those things, flesh it out, and as I do more and more videos, they're going to get more and more in depth. Before we dive in, I'd like to bring your attention to a post that I did last week. If you didn't catch it, I mentioned how I am aware that I'm not doing as many videos, and there is a very good reason or multiple reasons for doing so, and I want to share those with you today. They're very exciting things, so no worries here. I couldn't wait any longer to tell you about it, but it's been in the works. I've been working behind the scenes, and I can't wait to bring it to all of you. Number 1 is I am going to continue the series that I mentioned a few weeks ago, which is the shopping guides. This is going to be broken up by body type, I believe. I think that's just the easiest way to do it. So in each body type, I'm going to talk about where to shop, what items to get that fits that body type, and try to fit in as many of the brands that you guys mentioned. You can also pop more down below if you would like. And within each video, there's going to be a free guide for you all to download. That's going to give just a general overview of what each body type needs. So for example, if we're going to do the dramatics, it's going to break down all the dramatic lines with visuals and then walk you through the shopping guide. This is going to be completely free, and I cannot wait to share this with you guys. This is going to be a big series, so buckle up. It's going to take a while to get through the entire series, but I really want to provide this kind of content for you guys. Number 2, the next big thing, and I have so many of these little goodies to talk about, but the next one is something I've been working on for a long time and kind of correlates to me asking if anyone was interested in a membership channel, trying to figure out how I can reach you guys in a more rich content way without you having to buy a package with me or just watching free content that kind of misses a little bit more of that in-depth look into style. So this is going to be for people who don't want to invest in my one-on-ones but love doing this whole process on their own. I'm creating a masterclass video walking you through how to create your own personalized guide. This is so exciting because you basically will become your own stylist and see how I kind of work and create my guides for my clients, but you're going to be doing it on yourself, and I'm going to walk you through piece by piece on how to do that at home. And the price is not set yet, but I promise you it's going to be much more affordable for those who would like to kind of do the work on their own. I'm hoping that that really just empowers you all to know exactly what makes you beautiful and to really understand why this analysis is done and to really flesh out you as an individual, which is probably the most beautiful part of it. And lastly, yes, one more. I'm doing a pretty big revamp of my packages. Now, I've done this a few times here and there just to see what, you guys want to see. And I've now compiled all the best feedback I've gotten and how I really want to approach this. I also know what kind of services are out there already in what I do, and I cannot wait to present this to you guys. Things are about to get even more personalized than I've been doing, which by the way, I'm the only stylist who currently has the most personalized guides out there. Every single guide is completely unique to you and has never been duplicated ever again. And I want to keep that promise, and it's only going to get more personalized in the new packages. With those, there is one thing I can share, because the packages themselves I'll talk about later once they're all set up and ready for you guys. But the one I can share is very exciting and a little wild. I'm going to be offering free color analysis. Yes, you heard it right. I said free. It's going to be a generalized color analysis, but free. Free! Just to give you a taste of this style journey, because I really do think it's step number one. It does not end there, but it's such a good foundational start to the journey, and I want to provide that for you guys for free. So more details to come. Stay tuned. I cannot wait to share all of this with you. Please subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can see when the masterclasses come out, the shopping guide series, as well as the free color analysis once it is live. Okay, that was a lot. Let's dive into hair and makeup. We're going to start with hair. I wanted to separate the two very quickly. This might be a two-parter depending on how long I talk, but there's just so much to flesh out, and I believe that each category deserves its own limelight. So let's start with hair, which this little guy has a lot of. Classic essence. Hair here is such a vital piece to signify I'm put together, or I have my shit together. There's a polishness that comes with hair that's done correctly, or that is, yeah, well done, clean, groomed if you want, right? And that can have any texture of hair. No one is exempt from that feeling, from feeling fresh, from feeling fabulous, and from feeling just put together. That's where that old money concept comes in a little bit, because they have the luxury, they have the money to look good, to look really put together, and like they had time to wash their hair, do their whole thing, and still go to brunch. You know, it's that kind of attitude. Of course, you don't need to have that lifestyle to achieve the look. It's more about just really maintaining, and going for styles that just never go out of style. They might slightly tweak the classics once in a while, but on the whole, they're styles that just kind of come back into style again and again and again. So there's that element of, I can rely on this to never go out of style. So if you think of probably one of the most classic ladies out there, Anna Wintour from Vogue, she has had the same hairstyle forever, literally forever, since we've had an idea about her. That is such a classic move. Essentially what I'm saying is that as a classic, or someone who has high classic essence, they're not really game to changing up their look again and again. It's going to be rooted in something that they can rely on. So classics are going to be bob cuts in varying degrees. Yes, they've come and gone, but on the whole, like shoulder length hair is a classic. It has, you've seen it in every era, and that's what I'm talking about. So those kind of gravitational pieces that are coming back again and again. For a classic, you also wouldn't want to go too extreme, so really short, really long. That goes into those extremes, and they are very in the middle. Like their personalities are, the way they approach life. They don't want anything too much or too little. They want to look like they put effort into it, which is great, but they don't want to look like they're trying to attract a ton of attention, right? So there's an element of elegance. That's where you can find gloss, or just a little bit less of hairs that are kind of frizzy, going everywhere. It's a more rounded or sleeker or put together piece, regardless of your texture. So basically, one hair out of place looks super off on someone who has high classic essence. So all of a sudden, like, are they sick? Are they okay? Because we're so used to them coming polished, clean, ready, put together. You can think of this as well on the hair color side of things. They're not going to go on the hardcore trends when it comes to hair colors. They'll stick to kind of the basics and feel more comfortable. Again, we're something that can be a little bit more lived in, but still look like it's had time spent on it. So they're going to have maybe blonde or brunette or black hair, something that doesn't go, whoa, that is green hair, right? They're not going to have peaks of fun colors. They're going to stick to the basics because they're not super high maintenance, but they still want to look timeless. Dramatic essence. I like to think for dramatic essence, hair is really going to signify the level of approachability of a dramatic. So if you're seeing super sleek, whether it's in a braid or in straight hair, or even no hair, right? Like more on the bald sides, that's going to give quite the impression of what we're gonna get when we go to talk to you. If it's straight, sleek hair, you can think of it like armor, like a literal shield. And that's what is so striking about super straight, sleek hair, is it's so severe. So that's what we're going to get when we are near you. It's like, ooh, this person's gonna be intense. This person's gonna be a little spicy, but maybe on the more intense, like not dangerous, but they kind of like that element of being perceived. Or it's more on the spicy, like this person knows what they want, they're not gonna waste my time, and they command this room. You can get that as well with like a really sleek braid, or in very sharp cut, like afro cuts, as well as no hair. Like going bald is also shaving your hair really short, and just going for it bald wise is such a big statement, especially when it's done on someone who has such high, dramatic essence and who really exudes that. You're gonna notice it immediately. It's gonna have a different tone than any other essence if that's the essence they have. So think Cynthia Erivo, right? She's got this such intense energy that when she does not have hair, that's still giving us that. Like that's playing into that. If you're wondering if you can have like dramatic essence or classic essence and have different hair types, yes, you can have any hair type. I talked about it in my hair types for body type video. I'll just link it here. That is so important to me to really drive home that it doesn't matter what ethnicity you have and the hair texture that you have, you can make it work 100%. Everyone is welcome in any essence because there are no, boundaries on that. Like, let's never let that be something we cannot achieve just based on our hair texture. That would be silly. The second big thing is more of like sharp edges. So that you can think of like bangs are very severely cut, or kind of like Anna Wintour has classic and dramatic essence. So hers is a little bit more boom, 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 right? It's sharp edges and it's always super clean. It looks like it cut through something. That's what I'm talking about sleekness. It could be angles, it could be, something like a half shaven head could work as well in a dramatic essence, or no hair, as I said. You could even go as far as like spiky details, or something that looks wet is also a very dramatic thing because it almost looks like it's pokey or a little bit like sharp feeling, not so much in the, the shape of it, which adds to it, but if it's kind of, watery or looks a little bit wet and glistening, that can also feel like metal almost, like the armor idea. Ethereals. I talked a lot about movement with ethereals and how important it is. One of the biggest things that I notice with any of my high ethereal clients is they have a fluidity, like a movement to them. it almost feels like the way they speak is sing-songy at times, or maybe the way they move is very fluid, it's relaxing, it draws you in, it's almost like dancing, walking, or they almost talk like a paintbrush on a canvas. There is so much movement there. Even the way I'm talking right now as I'm describing it, that's a lot of movement. And that's what you see with someone who has higher ethereal essence. Even their thoughts go into a movement pattern and how they may collect their thoughts out loud. So we really want to mimic that in the way we dress and the way that our hair is being presented. So something that feels like it just has naturally like a cascading effect. It's not so much of a lusciousness the way you would see on a romantic, but it's more that it just has movement. It'll move with them seamlessly, especially if they have that walking element to it. That's really beautiful. And it's almost so much a part of an ethereal, their hair, that when it changes, it makes such a big impact. I mean, hair does always, but for them, it's part of that, it's an extension, I should say, of their movement. So the more that it moves, the more that you feel like, okay, this makes sense, right? It's moving with them. So longer hair tends to move a little bit more, and something that feels a little bit on the natural side, that feels tiny bit less put effort into, but not always. Not always. You can still put a lot of effort into an ethereal hair. It can be something that has waves in it. It could be long and flowing kind of curls. It could be tighter curls, but it just feels like almost bigger than life, but not in a dramatic way. It's more in a, wow, that is, again, a piece of art that's going to move. It has its own soul, if you will. You want shine as well. So if whatever your texture is, if you're able to capture a bit of that shine, great. If not, not a big deal. You can use, you know, lots of hair pieces that have shine in them. Little headbands are adorable for that. Not everyone's comfortable with wearing such shimmery, like shiny things all the time. But if you are someone that feels quite comfortable in that zone of an ethereal, then go for it. And you're still, I guess when I say larger than life, I want to really drive home that it's unique, that there's an art piece, there's an intrigue there. It's like a piece of art that you're not sure where it's gonna go or what this means, but you're intrigued by it and you don't know how to approach it. And that's not the same as an intimidation on the dramatic side, or super laid back, free flowing on the natural side. It kind of sits in the middle if you want to think of it like that. Another really fun way, I think, to add in that ethereal essence is with working on your contrast levels. So if you do have higher contrast, does it mean you can't be an ethereal? No, of course you can. In fact, the higher contrast you have on the two extremes, so low and high, can be quite equally very ethereal looking. So especially if you have like really dark and super high contrast look going on with very bright colored eyes, that helps to bring in the ethereal, as well as the other side of the spectrum where there's a little bit of a lower contrast, like your skin and your eye and your hair and your features all mix into one on the low or the, on the dark or on the light side of things, but in low contrast, can equally be very intriguing and very unassumingly interesting. Like there's a uniqueness there, right? They're on extreme levels, but they're not dramatic. They can be on the right person. So what I mean by that is if you had low contrast, you want to go blonde, or if you have dark skin and you want to go dark hair so that there's almost like a melting effect, that can be very statuesque. It can be very like that angelic side of things as well. So even if you had super short hair, but dyed it kind of like what Cynthia Revoke, she also has the Ethereal Essence, did when she went like white haired. That helped, and she like removed her eyebrows. That helped to really bring in low contrast for her and to bring in that kind of like unassuming, almost angelic side of it. And the opposite can be true with really higher contrast, like Liv Tyler in Lord of the Rings, right? Her eyes become kind of this like, whoa, focus, right? And it becomes very angelic at that point because there's such a high contrast going on that our feeling is that this is unassuming. It's intense, but it's very softly intense at the same time. Very cool mix. Romantic essence. You want soft and tousled hair. Think bedhead. Why? Because this is something that feels touchable. This feels like, ooh, you know, she's pretty sexy. She's got movement. Either you're touching your own hair or people want to touch your hair. That's a very flirty and very alluring thing going on. Of course, anyone can do this of any of the essences if you just want to, but for someone who is just naturally super flirty and feels like any room they walk into, people think they're flirting with them or they're flirting with everyone unintentionally, that's gonna really play in. Like playing with your hair is going to be a big thing, right? So anything that feels softer and feeling like touchable even. It doesn't have to be straighter hair. It can be any texture that just feels like you want to explore it. It also shows that there's time spent on it, especially when it's like this big and very luscious and volume hair. That's going to feel like, okay, this person spends time on their looks, and there is nothing wrong with that. It's just saying, I value the way I look and I like looking good and I like presenting that. I like showing it off. I like peacocking a little bit. That's high confidence and someone who wants to be seen, wants to be noticed in a room. So those soft flowing waves that I think I talked about in the romantic video, you want it to mimic a little bit of that yin element here. So that's very rounded, it's very soft and kind of mimics a woman's curves, for example, and or all the rounded shapes on our bodies, like our lips, our eyes, or even just, yeah, like those luscious parts of us. So the more we can mimic that all around, the more romantic essence gets infused and feels very, very luscious, very romantic. I also want to talk about framing. So for romantics, if you want to frame with your hair, I think that makes a really big difference, especially when you think of the thing that they talk with the most is going to be their eyes, right? They're very alluring, they're very intense, sexy energy. So if they have hair that kind of really frames their eyes, that brings the attention there, along with makeup, which we will talk about, that really draws people in, and it's quite a alluring, sexy thing. Like that's a very romantic thing to do. If we're all focusing here, plus the largeness of it, which kind of complements your big personality, and then this cascading yin effect, that's going to be gorgeous. I always think that people with romantic essence, because that's such a big energy, it doesn't mean you have to be loud. It's just very noticeable in a room, like when you're around them. And it's really alluring, and so they can handle so much hair or just a bigger, you know, style, and it's because of that that's such an intense and big energy, and it doesn't have to be loud vocally, it just, that energy is loud. Gamine essence. So for gamines, the name of the game is always playful, fun, and quirky, right? So you really want to focus in on how can your hair signify to people you're not taking it too seriously. And I mean it literally. You're not taking hair too seriously. Like, you're willing to put your hair through a lot just to have fun. So I know a lot of gamines that love putting color in their hair, and I'm talking unnatural colors, because it's fun and they get bored really easily. They don't want to stick to one thing. They're kind of the opposite of the classic who's just kind of staying in with the thing that works. Here they're going all out. They're having fun with it. They're experimenting with different colors. They're experimenting with different styles. The other big thing that they may do is really enjoy wearing wigs. Now, I know any essence can wear wigs. In fact, a lot of people do wear wigs day to day, and there's nothing necessarily gamine about it. I'm talking about the way they're doing that, like the way they're using wigs. It's not used in a way to just like give yourself a different look or to mimic a certain look. Technically speaking, wigs could be used in every essence to achieve what I've talked about today, because there are wigs in every essence that you could find. But what I mean is they actually use it in a costumey way. For the people who wear wigs day to day, it's not, the intention is not to be kind of costumey and weird and wild. It's just normal for them, and it is. So in this instance, when we're talking about wigs and gamines, it's done in a way that adds like a full personality change day to day, right? Like that's so fun for them. They like dressing up, and costumes on them is normal, right? To anyone else, it's like, oh gosh, you're trying so hard to be weird and interesting. Whereas someone who has high gamine essence, it's expected of them, and they do it and you're like, that's so cool, that's so fun, and they can just get away with it immediately. And like I said, it's such a great way to bring in different personalities, which they love to experiment with. Another way to experiment with that is to do styles that aren't traditionally, like, let's say feminine. They may want to do a really masculine look, even though they may identify as very feminine, and they like that juxtaposition. Or something that feels very androgynous can also be in there. I want to note too that you could be gender fluid or have any gender assignment identity in any of the essences. It's not strictly in gamine. The reason I talk about it so much in gamine is there is a subtype, like there's a type of person that's willing to kind of constantly push boundaries and showcase that, where it's obviously I'm pushing boundaries, and that's what I mean when I talk about gamines. Lastly, they can add lots of fun hair accessories and go a little more playful on that end. Naturals. Now, naturals, there's not a whole lot to talk about because, and I'll explain why. Naturals are very laid back and they don't want high maintenance, so they're not thinking about hair so much as other essences are on how it's being presented. It's more that they are focused on low maintenance and things that just feel lived in, that are easy, that don't require a lot of maintenance. And by that I mean something that's easy to just like put up into a ponytail. I don't want to think about it or get it out of my face, you know, anything like that, or that wouldn't require a ton of products. Like that's gonna be a big thing. 20-step hair routine is not found here in this essence, right? They don't want to hear about it. It's like, no, I'd rather just wash my hair, let it air dry, and it is what it is, right? That's what I mean. And oftentimes I find when I meet high natural essence, they have never dyed their hair, or they rarely do, because it's just too high maintenance, honestly. Or they really value the fact that their hair is in its natural state. So whether it's in their natural texture or in their natural hair color, that's something that can be quite important to a natural. It kind of goes back to that whole enjoying earthier or enjoying the idea of handmade things. It's going back to the roots. It's not adding on artificial stuff to it. And you could still dye your hair and be a natural. I'm not saying that, but I find the more higher natural you are, in a very specific type of natural that really values that, you're gonna see a little less of the wanting to dye their hair or wanting to spend a ton of time making their hair into something that it's not. texture-wise especially. So they'll let their hair go a little bit more on the natural side, and it's less kept, right? It's not the way classics are where everything is clean, or, I mean, your hair is clean, but it's not as prim and proper or sleek looking. It's more, hair is out of place, but it looks cool. It looks laid back. It just looks lived in, like wind was in your hair, and who cares? Because you look cool. You look good. I find that people assume, and I do think this is correct, I just think there's more layers to it, but longer hair is often associated with naturals, and yeah, there's a flowy kind of feeling to it, and there's a little bit of that feeling of just looseness going on. But to me, I really think it plays into more of the idea that you can, it's easier to maintain when it's long. You're not getting regular haircuts so that you, sorry, Chester walked past the camera. Sometimes it jiggles. Yeah, you're not worried about going to the hair salon to get it cut all the time. In fact, a lot of naturals that I know and that I have worked with that have long hair just cut it themselves because they just can't even be bothered to go into a salon. Like, no, ugh, that's like too much work, you know? And I get it. They just will just cut, trim it when it's long. It's usually all one length, or they may add a few layers, but if it becomes too high maintenance, they're not really comfortable with it. You can also think of things that feel a little bit shaggier, like there's that idea that a lot of stylists talk about, hairstylists, this lived-in look. So bangs that are kind of shaggy and lived in, they don't require as much effort as regular bangs, although they can. And I also want to note that there are some naturals who just want to appear like they didn't do a lot of work on their hair, but they maybe did, and that's equally as valid, especially when you have very textured hair, like really curly natural hair. You actually do have to use products to maintain it, so that's fair as well. But it's just that it's not, the impression is not that I've spent hours and hours and hours on it. And they'll often just wear it up and out of their face, out of the way, so they can do what they want to do. They want to go garden, they want to be outside, they want to be, you know, doing jewelry, I don't know, whatever naturals are wanting to do. A lot of times they're sporty, so that's another reason why they keep their hair long, so they can put it back, or short can also work too. Lastly, ingenue hair. This essence is really fun, and I think it's, well, I'll say this, on the wrong person, it's going to feel very much a costume if they did their hair like this. I've noticed that it kind of became a trend to do a little bit of like a coquette type of hair, where it just feels like, yeah, younger, more innocent femininity, especially sort of France, Paris idea where it's half up with a bow. That does work really well on people who do have higher ingenue essence. When you don't, it looks like an adult trying to look younger. When you have this essence, high essence, or really resonate with it, it's not gonna feel off on you, and in fact, it's gonna look really sweet and really on brand for you. So let's get into it. That's styles that you would see classically, and I know I just used the word classic, but bear with me, on schoolgirls, or what you would see in that kind of age group where you're a preteen going into womanhood. There's a lot of innocence there, and there's still a little bit of elements of your childhood as well as becoming a woman. So there is femininity in the hair and in the look, but it's a lot more sweet and a lot more cute. So what does that mean and what does that look like? It's a lot of times it's a half updo, but it has just like little peaks of, I don't remember what these are called. They're not, what kind of curtain bangs or tendrils, I think it's called. I'm just blanking. That's going to have that effect because there's a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of that femininity, but it's half up, gives it a tiny bit more of a seriousness or a more buttoned up feel. So it's like I like to think of this essence a little bit like you've taken a bit of classic and infused it with romantic and just youngified it. But not always. Of course, there's different types of ingénue, so this is kind of the more generalized version of it. It's a lot cuter. So with the hair, it's not gonna be super long because younger kids generally don't have like extremely long hair. It would get in the way of play, of, you know, experimenting. But pretty long, like medium to long is pretty normal, especially when, you know, young girls love like princesses and thinking about that, or they still want to maintain a little bit of that fresh youthfulness. Then the longer hair helps in that instance. But overall, it's very sweet. It's very, yeah. So you're gonna find bows, you're gonna find headbands, you're gonna find things that toe the line between reserved and feminine. That's really what you're doing all the time in this essence, and it's very curious. It's very wide-eyed and willing to dip its toe into like sensuality a little bit, but it's not fully grown. It's not fully fleshed out. So you can think that little schoolgirl vibe with like bangs is a big one, right? Shoulder length hair is an easier one to kind of maintain. If you think of Madeline, that little schoolgirl in France, that kind of idea, or something that can easily and look normal with like a cardigan or something that you would wear in school, where you're still put together in a private school, but you're not fully buttoned up like a severe bun, for example. Barrettes, headbands, like I said, bows, accessories are gonna play a big part in kind of changing it from something that might be romantic into something that has a little bit more innocence in it. And I think I already mentioned it, but bangs is going to help bring that youthfulness. A lot of young kids, a lot of youth have bangs, and so that helps to kind of bring in that kind of playfulness. And again, that's just the way that we think of with ingénues. It's playful, it's fun, but it's not quirky. It's not, the main goal is not to be playful. It's just that there is this curiosity, this innocence exuding from it. And that is it for part 1. I did not want to make this too long, so I've split it up into 2 parts. So that'll come out just as quickly as part 1 for you to check out, all about makeup on each of the essences. If you know your essence blend, or if you relate to any of these essences, please let me know down below. I love to hear about it. If you need any help figuring out your essence, your body type, or your coloring, my services are down below for you. And like I said, there is so much more to come, so get ready. All right, I hope you all have a beautiful hair-filled, whatever kind of hair you have, day.